All right, so we have some news. Baker Mayfield is no longer a member of the Cleveland Browns, the former first overall pick. We felt like he was going to be potentially on his way out, and that is exactly what's happened. What's interesting, though, is how this whole situation went down. Obviously, teams were not wanting to touch his $19 million cap hit because there wasn't a lot of teams that really felt strongly about him hanging into the next season. So what happened was he's not going to be getting paid $19 million by the Carolina Panthers. According to Mike Garafolo, the Browns will pay $10.5 million this season, which means they trimmed over $8 million in cash and salary cap space. The Panthers will pay Baker $5 million, and Baker agreed to trim $3.5 million off himself to go somewhere else. So Baker is taking a $3.5 million pay cut to go somewhere else because he is so burned about the Browns situation. Going to the Panthers, of course, which is interesting. I think it's more interesting from the Browns side of things a little bit for the Cleveland Browns. They're a team that, I think that they were in kind of a weird situation where they, again, the Deshaun Watson stuff is so tough to talk about because obviously he's had, 24 different sexual assault allegations, but at least, as of recording this video, maybe more will happen later, but he's so good on the football field that I also think that, I get the football side of stuff and why they made that decision, but it upset Mayfield and they drove him out of town. It's kind of an understandable thing. I don't think they realized they were going to end up getting caught spending $10 million on Mayfield this year, which I think was a definitive tough thing. But they have Jacoby Brissett, so they have a good backup already, and Mayfield was not going to want to play. One interesting thing I've heard people bring up is that Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers will host the Cleveland Browns week 1, so that's interesting as Mayfield will get a chance at some revenge right away. Might be a little tough because I don't think the Panthers are great, and that's kind of the other interesting thing is I heard one thing that was talked about, and also sorry if you can hear, I know that there's some yard work going on all day, yard work, it's driving me crazy, but if you can hear some of the yard work going on, apologies about that. But anyways, back to Mayfield and back to the Panthers, I do kind of wonder, I believe Mina Kimes brought up, would it have been the best strategy for him to just stay in Cleveland for a year? Almost certainly you would have had, a situation where Deshaun Watson gets suspended for some amount of time. And if you kind of just stay there, put your ego aside, put the, deal with the tough situation of playing with a team that does not want you, which would suck. I get it. I'm not going to sit here and say I would be able to do that. But if that's the decision that you made, then you could potentially put yourself in a situation where you now, are just in a much better situation. You have receivers to throw to, you have a good head coach, you have a good running game. We've seen Mayfield have some success. Maybe you get a bigger deal that way. Plus, you don't have to shave off $3.5 million to do it, to go somewhere else. But I think Mayfield wanted a chance to play and wanted a chance to be the guy. I think Carolina is, listen, he'll get playing time there, right? That's kind of the upside. I had sort of, actually, interestingly enough, Mayfield was on a thumbnail yesterday of a video I made, the top 7 moves that could still happen. I suggested maybe the Giants could take a chance on him because, hey, for the New York Giants, maybe the logic is like, he could be a good backup if Daniel Jones does not work out. Good plan B, maybe he could work out. But that's kind of, what's interesting here. Also, I should mention the compensation. Very little. Panthers gave up a 2024 conditional 5th round pick. I'm not sure what the condition is, but seems like this is very much we're just giving you him to take on, $5 million of his salary, and he agrees to shave $3.5 million off himself. So do I think that this is going to make a big difference? Well, here's the one thing it could do. It could save Matt Rule's job. That's a very legitimate, real thing that this move could do, is it could save Matt Rule's job. Matt Rule is got to be doing high fives somewhere, going, being thrilled that he will not have to deal with a Sam Darnold situation. Now, you drafted Matt Corral in the 3rd round, who I believe is the 3rd round, who I actually like a decent amount. I thought that he was pretty good, so I wouldn't be shocked if Matt Corral is solid as well. But I always say my biggest critique of the Sam Darnold decision last year was not that they took a shot on Sam Darnold. Taking a shot on Sam Darnold is fine. There was plenty of reason to believe that he might be successful. That was totally logical and made a ton of sense. I had no issue with taking a shot on Sam Darnold. My issue with it was completely relying on Sam Darnold to be successful, not having a plan B. They should have had someone else in the room in case Sam Darnold doesn't work out. The ideal situation is you get a quarterback and you keep them. That's the ideal situation. If you don't have a quarterback, it's really hard to figure out which quarterback is going to be great. So the best way to, figure that out is just give yourself as many odds as possible. Take as many chances as possible. Get as many different players as possible. I think one reason why teams weren't so high on Baker Mayfield, and this is a very real thing, is that for Mayfield, the best case scenario for the Panthers is that Mayfield plays very well, which is a very real possibility. That could happen. But if he plays very well, you have to pay him. He's on the last year. He's on his fifth-year option, so he's on his last year of his rookie deal. You're now going to have to pay him. He's going to be a free agent. So if he does play well, now you're stuck paying him $30 million plus a year, potentially more, given how some of these guys are getting paid. So you do not want that to happen. And it's also part of why part of me felt like Mayfield maybe should have just stuck it out and stayed with the Browns for another year. I also don't know how much of his issue with that, though, was he mad that a team tried to move on from him, or was he mad that a team moved on for him for Deshaun Watson? And if it's the second one, I can understand it a little bit more of not wanting to, of the emotional side of things. But yeah, as a whole, this is not a huge win from the Browns' perspective. You're only saving about $8 million here, but you're saving some money. You'd rather not have to spend $19 million on a guy who's probably not going to play. You'd rather just go Brissett as the backup. That makes some sense. But so a minor win, and I think that they probably expected that they would be able to save more than the $15 million, or save more than $8 million, excuse me. I also think that for the Panthers, this is, it's hard to sit here and look at a way that this could backfire, right? The only way I can see it backfiring is if he plays well, gets a big contract of you, and then starts sucking. But, okay, that's a very niche situation for it to happen. And, listen, for guys that maybe are going to be losing their job next year in that Carolina Panthers organization, being able to, get someone who could potentially play right away and potentially play well. Baker Mayfield 2 years ago was good at football. So this is not that crazy that he could be successful. I do think that there's a very real chance that Mayfield could play well. So it's absolutely a very fascinating situation. I was wondering if the trade was going to get done. The trade does get done, and only for the Panthers, say $5 million. That's there's worse flyers to take. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.